Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be reviewing the Caraval series, which is a trilogy, a fantasy young adult trilogy that I finished these past 2 months in October and November. And I thought I'd give you a review on all three of them since I didn't review Caraval and I just finished Legendary and Finale, so figured I'd just give you a rundown of all three and my feelings on all of them. So first, we're gonna go non-spoiler, and then we'll switch to a spoiler section. So if you haven't read the series, don't watch the spoiler section because I will be talking about what happens, like pretty big plot lines in the book. And then just my general rating at the end. So first, obviously, we have to start with Caraval, the first book in the series. And if I were to use one word to describe this series, specifically this book, it would be magical. And I know that's kind of basic, but this book really does a great job transporting you to this world, to this scenery, and like imagining things that like you wouldn't think to imagine. It's just, I loved this book so much, like for the setting, for the characters, what was happening. We follow this sister Scarlet and her sister Donatella, and they decide to participate in this game that's called Caraval. And there's a Caraval master legend who basically runs these games. And this is all on the back, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, so one of the sisters ends up getting like lost on Caraval, and the other sister spends Caraval trying to save her sister and find her sister. And in order to do that, she has to win the game. So it's really fun. It's really cool. There's a romance scene here that I actually fell in love with the couple in this book and loved them so much. So I actually ended up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. And the only reason I didn't give it 5 is I didn't really get that feeling, and I felt like, and this is just my tiny little problem with Stephanie Garber's writing, I feel like there were plot holes throughout the series, and so I just can't give it 5 stars in my heart because I noticed those things. But I loved this book. Like, I'm not all the time reading to have a perfect story, and I just got good vibes from this book, and I loved the characters. I loved the writing besides the plot holes. So that's Caraval. The second book, Legendary, and I need to tell you that I read this on the beach and my book fell apart. If you haven't seen my last video, I talked about this a little bit, and I don't know if that's ever happened to anyone else, but happened to me, so I might have to repurchase Legendary. But I did love this book. This book is from the other sister's perspective. So Caraval follows Scarlet, and this book follows Donatella. And I was a little worried that I would like Scarlet more than Donatella, and therefore I wouldn't enjoy this book as much. But I enjoyed this book just as much, if not more. I felt like in this book, the game had another element to it, because in this book they introduce you to what they call the fates, which is essentially kind of like, the best thing I can compare it to is like a Greek gods and Greek goddesses system of these fates that are trapped in almost like tarot cards. And so the game revolves around the fates, and you follow Donatella. There's another romantasy. You also get bits and pieces of Scarlet in this book, but not as much as in the third book, where we alternate perspectives from Donatella and Scarlet, which I think is a really cool way to tie together the two POVs. The first book is Scarlet, the second book's Donatella, and the third book is both of them. I will say I liked Donatella's storyline more in this book, but it equally pissed me off. So I gave the last two books 4.5 out of 5. I ended up giving this 5 out of 5. I'm not 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5. And the reason for that is I just was a little bit disappointed with the ending. And I know there's like kind of a series after it, Once Upon a Broken Heart, that I'm going to have to read. But I don't feel, but that's from a different perspective, I'm pretty sure, and I don't feel like I'm done with Scarlet and Donatella. And I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind once I read the other three, but I wasn't as sold on the romance in this book as I was in the second book, and maybe I should just trust Stephanie Garber and know that the plot holes in this book and in the second book and the first book will be figured out in the other series. But I don't know, I just had issues with the plot holes personally. But again, still a 4-star book. Like, I still rated this book highly and loved this book just for the experience, the characters. I read this in one sitting, so it's like over 460 pages, and I read it in one sitting. So I think it's safe to say that I liked it. I just think it could have been better, but that's me. But this is like definitely going to go down as one of those series that like I will never forget. So if you like fantasy, if you like young adult fantasy, I would definitely recommend you reading these books, because especially during like fall, winter, I feel like that's the perfect atmosphere to read these books. So you should definitely give it a try. Now I'm going to go into a spoiler section. So if you don't want any spoilers, if you haven't read the book, I'm giving you a chance to click off now. You can skip to this part of the video. No judgment. But yes, so I'll give you guys a second to get out of here if you haven't read the book and don't want spoilers. Okay, I hope you're on. Caraval. Honestly, it's been since October that I've read this, so I don't have too many spoilers to talk about. But basically, Scarlet goes into the game, Donatella gets lost, and my favorite part about this book was not only the relationship between the sisters, and Scarlet just like never giving up on Donatella. Like, she loves Donatella so much, you could tell, especially like, you know, the whole plot line where she saves her at the end. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but I also really loved Julian and Scarlet. Like, there was times where I was listening to the audiobook, because I dual listened to the audiobook and read this, and I was literally smiling from ear to ear because of like their banter and just everything about them. I loved it. I also thought that this book had so many cool like elements, like the whole thing about when she went to go buy a dress and she had to give up 2 days of her life, basically, and how she did that was like she gave drops of blood. Just the magic system in these books is so cool. Or also the cider that helps you see clearer. Like, it was just like, this is what a fantasy book should be. It should be able to have these cool concepts and write them well. So 4.5 out of 5. Those are my spoilers for that book. Legendary. This is about Donatella and Legend, who is the other romantic interest in this book. But you don't know that. And this is the biggest spoiler of the book, but she falls in love with Dante, who was in the first book. And Dante is actually Legend, and you find that out at the end of the book. The thing I loved most about this book is the added element of the fates and all of that. Like, that's such a cool concept to me, and like I tried to explain to other people who haven't read this book, like, no, their gods are trapped in playing cards. Like, that's what is happening, and it just doesn't make sense unless you read it, but it's so cool. And especially the Prince of Broken Hearts, that was the plot hole that I like wasn't sure about. I'm pretty sure in Caraval, Dante had a sister, and they just never mention it again. Was that an actress? Was that... Because we know that Dante is Legend and Julian is Dante's brother. So what happened to his sister from the first book? Like, that was one of the plot holes. And then how the Prince of Broken Hearts is Donatella's like Donatella is the Prince of Broken Hearts' one true love. But she doesn't fall in love with him. That's so sad. Like, why? More so in this book, I was rooting low-key for Jax is his name, and Donatella, because I just felt so bad for him that his one true love, like, literally doesn't love him. And also he was kind of sassy, he was kind of doing the most, and I don't know why some moments in finale, Legend gave me Tamlin vibes from ACOTAR, and it kind of icked me out. And so then I was like, I don't know who I actually like with Donatella. And so that's why finale, like, didn't do it as much for me, just because, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure in Once Upon a Broken Heart, I think Jax is going to come back, and I think he's going to be a love interest, but still, I don't know. And basically, at the end, I don't know, I'm getting off topic. At the end of Legendary, Dante sacrifices himself, and lets out the fates from the cards. So in this book, the fates are free and out, and the master guy, including Donatella and Scarlet's mother, which, wow, totally forgot that was a plot point. But Donatella's and Scarlet's mother is trapped in the card, and she had this whole secret identity before she became their mother, but she disappeared 7 years before the first book took place, and they find out that she was actually trapped in the cards with the fates. She gets let out, but she actually dies, like, literally, like, what is it, like, 100 pages into finale, I want to say, because you find out that she was actually deeply in love with this guy who is a fate. I think his name is Gavriel. They call him the Fallen Star. I don't know if it's Gabriel, something like that. But she was in love with the fate, and that is actually Scarlet's father. And so there's all these plot points, and they basically have to find a way to save the world from the fates, because the fates are kind of like wicked a little bit. They're kind of not very nice. So yeah, it was good. Donatella ends up with Legend at the end and not Jax, the Prince of Broken Hearts. Hope that that's not the last I read of him. But yeah, that is basically it for my spoiler section. So welcome back if you skipped the spoiler section. Overall, I really would recommend this series to read, because I think that it is, like, I don't know, super immersive is the word I'm looking for. And I just really enjoyed it, and I think if you guys like fantasy, and I know I'm kind of late to this bandwagon, like, I know a lot of people have probably already read this, but I would definitely recommend reading these before you read Once Upon a Broken Heart, because I'm pretty sure it just brings context to the world, and I actually really enjoyed these books. So hope everyone enjoyed this video, and that you're all having a good day wherever you are in the world, and remember that I love you, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.